Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and today we're going to look at this case, which is very bizarre. It is the case of the murder of Diane Kyne, and she was home with these two men. This is her son. This is her husband, and he is his stepson. Only the three of them in the house. She ends up strangled. And the question comes down to which one of them did it. And it's a very, very strange case because when this all went down, the first phone call came in to 911, and it was the son who said, "He killed my mom." And then 2 minutes later, another phone call came in from her husband who said, "My son just killed my wife." Very unusual, extremely unusual. So this is what we're going to talk about. It's a complicated case. It was complicated in the sense that both of their stories were a little questionable, and the physical evidence was also not so strong you could just say absolutely. There's really two sides to this story. And this is the guy that got convicted. The son got convicted. And then there was an appeal. And it was appealed mostly on his technicality, and I'll get into that. But he was found not guilty the second time around. I would say, from what I've seen on the internet and what I see here in the chat room, about 95% of the people believe her husband killed her. So where will I stand on this? What do I see as evidence? Who do I think killed Diane? Where does the evidence point? And so we're going to get into this. I want to welcome everybody who's in the chat room. Some more of you have rolled in. So now Kurtz is here, Carol's here, Cheryl's here. Who else is here who's new? Chris Mish is here, Clarissa's here, Harp is here. Well, we got a full Lex is here, Lisa S is here, Amy's here. I'm trying to go back. Loretta's here, Taylor's here. Wow, I was really busy today. Kara's here. Did I say hello to everybody else? I think Molly's here. Cheryl's here. I'm trying to go back to where I said hello to everybody before the show. So welcome, everybody. Did I just disappear? Oh, this is going to be one of these days. I hit the wrong button. Yeah, I pulled the plug on myself. No, I'm back, right? You all see me. Please tell me you see me, right? Oh my goodness. Am I back? What? Am I not back? What's going on? Am I not back? Yes, I'm back. Okay, you can see me. I went to put this screen up and I just hit the wrong button and yeah. Such as it goes, live shows, no editing. There you have it. So anyway, if you'd like to be in the chat room with these wonderful people who see me come and go, please do click on the link below. Join Patreon. It's $5 a month. There are 8 live shows, 2 every week. One is this case show on the weekend, and there's a hangout during the week. And it also supports an educational channel if you join. If you don't want to join, don't worry. Every one of my videos is public. Once I finish the live show, all of them become public. If you can subscribe and support the channel that way, fantastic. I do appreciate that. Please check the playlists. Because there's now hundreds of different cases there, especially if you have a particular case you're interested in. Find it there or go to the search engine on YouTube and put in Profiler Pat Brown and the case you're interested in. So that is that. All right. So there's no charge for the blackout. Oh, gosh. Yeah, you have to put up with me. That's what you have to do. You have to put up with me. Okay, I'm taking my glasses off. Maybe that's the problem. All of you know I'm struggling with early cataracts. Doesn't that suck? And so I have new glasses, but I don't have glasses. I can see now. I can read now, but I can't see distance. I used to not be able to see distance, but be able to read. So I'll have to get surgery one of these days. It's annoying, but I can read clearly now without glasses. And after the surgery, I won't be able to read without glasses anymore, but I'll be able to see in the distance. You just can't win. Anyway, let's go to this show. So, what about this case? It is so incredibly unusual. And first of all, I want to tell you where I got my information from. And the information sucks. All right. It's again one of these cases where one of the reasons it's very difficult to analyze properly, to profile properly, is because each one of these documentaries or YouTube shows has something in it, but they're leaving out everything else. I don't know why they do this. That's one of the frustrations I have with documentaries, even doing them myself. When I've been in a documentary, I'm so frustrated many times because I said so many good things, but they cut them all. And then they left me saying things like, wow, that was really sad. Something pointless. And I'm like, why didn't you put in this, which I said? But documentaries are there rarely are they there for educational purposes. They're there to titillate the audience with the creepy crime. That's what it's all about. There was a group that came out and they were talking about murdertainment, and that we as a society are addicted to murdertainment. We just watch one thing about murder after the other. We're just fascinated by people being murdered and the people who murder them. And so media definitely figured that out. Oxygen, which used to be a channel on supporting women in a positive journey, turned into a murder channel. And the same is true for investigation discovery. So much for those fishies in the sea or the ancient ruins over in the Middle East. No. Now we're about murder because it makes more money. So they put these shows together and they don't spend a lot of time getting the details, and they don't spend much time presenting them because doing that bores people. And I know that because my channel gets way less views than do the channels that just tell the damn story. People are like, shut up, Pat. Why don't you just tell the story? Because I'm not a storyteller. I'm a profiler. I want you to understand the case and the evidence. So, such as it is. So, this is one of these cases where they have failed to present to the audience enough information. And that's where I get stuck. So, all right. Now, oh, that's kind of nice. That's interesting. Lisa says, I think they may go hand in hand with the interest in death, studying it, phenology, end-of-life care, afterlife discussions, just some, not all. I do think people are fascinated by the issue of life and death. So it's not unreasonable to think that that's sometimes just gets our attention. As I get older, it gets my attention even more and more. I'm like, how much time do I have left? Dang it all, And it is fascinating, and it is also fascinating when you look at just the world in general, and you think of the billions of people that are here, and how many murders occur, how many people who should be living a nice life get murdered by other people for really ridiculous reasons most of the time, and that there's so many evil people, so many terrible people out there, just killing people nonchalantly. And for those of us who do not think we could imagine taking our steak knife and stabbing somebody through the heart with it, or shooting somebody's brains out, it is fascinating to people because I don't understand how people can do this, and how this person who was happy one day is just suddenly dead. I understand the attraction, but I wish that the media would not feed into it the way they do. All right, so okay, I'm looking at the things here. Oh, wish Dateline had been longer. Okay, the problem with this, Clarissa, is this. Okay, so let me show you what I got the information from. All right, I got it from a number of different sources. Dateline, which was this one. This was on YouTube. It's only it's 8 minutes long, as you can see. Dateline mini mystery, true lies. Well, apparently there was supposedly a longer version of this, and I looked so hard for this. And I went to I have Peacock. I think it was supposed to be on Peacock. I subscribe to Peacock, Discovery, Max. I subscribe to about 7 different networks. I do this so I can go to these documentaries. So cost of doing business, you see. I just have to keep paying for these because that's how I can access these things. So I went there, and there was a whole, for that season, every single one was there except that one. It was missing. Now, I don't know why it was missing. Somebody said they'd seen the longer version. And so I knew it existed, but it is not available. And I don't know why it's not available. I don't know if they were sued or there was some issue. I have no idea, but it was really frustrating. So yes, you could only see the 8-minute version. Still worth looking at, mind you. Now, I got a little more information off of this YouTube channel called Just Thought Lounge, 23 minutes, called House of Lies. And it added information. So I watched that one as well. Then just this afternoon, when I was going through Reddit or something, somebody mentioned that there was a Discovery Channel one. I'm like, really? And luckily I had enough information. I was able to scrounge it up. And it was called Flesh and Blood. 2 members of the same family called the police to accuse each other of murder. Well, this is an embarrassingly bad documentary, just horrific, full of awful reenactments, a lot of they're not focusing on just the evidence. They're making up a lot of stuff. A lot of fictionalizing was going on, and it was pretty appalling. And on top of that, they seem to have an obsession with chameleons. I kid you not, because there were these chameleons that kept showing up throughout the show. Now, I, being a lizard lover and do love these chameleons, I'm like, they're really cute, but what the heck are they doing in the show? Well, apparently they're supposed to represent Florida, and this is supposed to be, I think this might be Kevin, the son, and this might be, and this might be the husband, Bill. So they keep showing up, the green lizard and the brown lizard, and they're like there they are, the 2 of them. Which one did it? It's like the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It's like, are you kidding me? Who came up with this? So it's a really bad documentary. But I watched it, and there were a few things that were interesting in it. So therefore, sometimes you keep looking for stuff. One other thing I got information from, which is absolutely fascinating to me. I read this guy's book. His book is called Love That Lasts a Lifetime. It is a story about love. It's a story about having faith in God. It is a Christian, and he's talking about the 3 women in his life who brought love to him. 3. There were 3. And at least so far, because he's still alive. There's probably going to be a 4th. But I read the book, and this is a very interesting added piece of information to me as to understanding who this guy is, or maybe understanding who this guy is. So let's get to now the actual details of this case. Loretta, I know he's guilty just from the title of the book. I'll get into his book in a minute. If he wanted the insurance, he would have taken out the son too. There's a whole thing about him and the insurance. So let me just read you the basics for those of you who've never heard of this case. And it's not a really well-known case. It's not even in Wikipedia. So, poor Diane, she doesn't make Wikipedia. Diane Kyne reportedly died of strangulation or asphyxiation. And I like the word reportedly. This is coming from sportskedio.com, which is not exactly a great website. But anyway, reportedly is not inaccurate. I can't find the autopsy report or the police report. I can't find the information that I would like to find on that. I wanted to read the entire autopsy report, and I can't get hold of it. Where is it? I do not know. He mentioned in his book that the information on the court, both of his trials are available publicly, and I could not find it. All I found was an appeal. I will read you from the appeal. And maybe I didn't do enough research, but I just didn't find it. Maybe the court documents are available in Florida, but not online. And I'm not flying to Florida. So I don't know, but there's no autopsy report that I was able to access. Therefore, reportedly is actually the correct term, because I don't know. I don't see the medical examiner's report. to say exactly what happened to her. And then it said she died of strangulation or asphyxiation. Why both of those terms? Now, strangulation is there's two types. Ligature strangulation, which you have some kind of a rope or something around your neck, which causes you to strangle, or it's hands like this. That's manual strangulation. Manual strangulation, ligature strangulation with a cord of some sort. Asphyxiation simply means you died because you couldn't breathe anymore. And that can happen in a lot of ways. A pillow over your face, positional asphyxiation, like you fall into some weird position and you can't move and eventually you just can't get enough air, positional asphyxiation. So which one is it? What are you actually saying here? So she definitely asphyxiated because she couldn't breathe, but was it manual strangulation? I don't think it was ligature strangulation. I'm not hearing about any marks on her neck. But I'm also not hearing about any fingerprints on her neck or nail marks on her neck. So I really freaking don't know. Haven't got a clue. All I know is she's dead in the bed. Somebody somehow caused asphyxiation. Okay. So she reportedly died of strangulation or asphyxiation, according to the police. Her son, Kevin Kyne, made a frantic 911 call on a devastating afternoon. I don't know how the afternoon is devastating. It's terrible writing. Okay, it was in the afternoon. The event was devastating, but I don't know. You call the afternoon devastating. In August 2010, saying that his stepfather, Bill, murdered his mother and that he was trying to choke him. Okay, so he's saying that he found out that he murdered his mom. It was murdered his mother, and then okay, let me just show you what he actually said. Sort of. This is supposedly what he said, and I'm not sure. This is what gets confusing. You look at different documentaries. I'm not seeing the court case exactly. I'm getting this statement, but it's an interesting statement. He says this. Supposedly. Okay, let me give you a back up a little bit. Suppose he's laying on the couch, hanging out. I'll get into his issues in a minute. But he's on the couch laying there, and supposedly his stepdad, who is his dad, because when these two got married, he was 15, and when they got married, he took his name, and supposedly he liked him, so that's why he took his name, and he was happy that he had a dad in his life. But he has a lot of issues. So anyway, he's living with them at 23 years old, and he's laying on the couch, and he claims his dad came and tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Your mom wants to talk to you," which is interesting because his mom and him have been talking by email and not verbally talking, even though they live in the same house. That's how bad things were. So anyway, he says that his dad tapped him on the shoulder, so he went to the door of the bedroom that she was in. As soon as I pushed the door open, he grabbed me from the back of the neck and put me in a chokehold. The building thing, I think, is just a bad caption. Put me in a chokehold. Yes, sir. And I was screaming, "Mom, Mom." Okay. This is the beginning of the conundrum of what actually happened. At this point, he's claiming in that one bit that his father wanted him to go to talk to his mother. He gets to the door. He barely opens the door when his dad puts him in a chokehold. By the way, he was a bouncer once in his early life, so he doesn't know what a chokehold is. So I'm not objecting to him saying that. And to put him in a chokehold. And then he's screaming, "Mom, Mom," as if he needs mom to save him. At another point in time, he says he looks in the room and he sees his mother's face is black, and blue, really dark, laying on the bed. And you know she's dead. Well, if that's true, why are you screaming, "Mom, Mom"? Because dead people don't help you get out of chokeholds. And at the point he also says he got chokeholded and his father pulled him away. He supposedly didn't get into the room. He never got into the room, and dad's chasing him now onto the lawn. He claims that when he calls up 911, he says, "Dad killed my mom." How does he know that if he didn't actually see that his mom was dead? There's a problem here. So his story varies. which caught the attention of law enforcement. But again, his story will be questionable as well. So wait till you hear the rest of this. All right. So he called and he said that Bill, his stepdad, had murdered his mother and he was trying to choke him. Kevin told the authorities. Now, I think it was Discovery, shows him running to the neighbor's house in his underwear, and the neighbors put some clothes on him. That's when he calls 911 and tells him what Dad did. Kevin told authorities that his father told him his mother wanted to see him in the bedroom while the two were watching a race. Okay. As he went there, he was attacked by Bill, and although he tried to scream for help in order to rescue his mother, what? So now I don't know if this is just crappy writing or what. He was screaming, "Mom, Mom," from what I get from what he just said in the caption I read there, that he wanted his mom to save him. And if he was screaming for help, who was going to help him? He was in the house with his dad. The only other person that was living there at the time actually was his stepbrother and his girlfriend, but they were there temporarily, but they were out shopping that day. By the way, Discovery pulled that one for the longest time, and maybe it could be his other son. No, he had a solid alibi, and they knew that before they did the show. So that's a bunch of bunk, and it annoys me. So there are only 3 of them in the house. Who was he calling out to for help to save his mother? How does this make any sense? So this is very peculiar. All right. And so he said that although he tried to scream for help in order to rescue his mother, he said that she was already dead by then. Okay. Kevin went into detail, and according to Oxygen, which is another channel you shouldn't really believe, described the moment he allegedly saw his mother in the bedroom. "I saw my mom's face. Her face was black and blue. It wasn't even blue. It was just black. And it was absolutely horrible. That's a mental picture that's going to be in the back of my mind for the rest of my life." So first he says he just barely opened the door when he got chokeholded. How did he actually see? His mother's laying down, mind you. Her head is on the other end of the bed. She's on her back, face up. How does he even see her face? And even if she were strangled or asphyxiated, why is her face dark, black, and blue? I mean, that doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. And by the way, another thing that people will jump out and say this guy's guilty is because supposedly an EMT said that when he touched her body, it was cold. So therefore, when he saw her, it wasn't that she had just died. She'd just been killed, that he had killed her sometime before and time had passed. And then he said, "Hey, son, go look at that," and to try to frame his son. Okay, well, let's look at how cold people are. It takes around 12 hours for a human body to cool to the touch and 24 hours to cool to the core. Okay, rigor mortis commences after 3 hours and lasts until 36 hours after death. All right, here's another little point of view. Approximately the first 3 hours after death, the body will be warm. Then 3 to 8 hours, it starts to stiffen. And from approximately 8 to 36 hours, it will be stiff and cold. So when the supposed, now mind you, I don't know where the story about the EMT came in that said she was cold, but I don't see how she would have been cold because, and this is something here again, let me talk about lack of information and why it's so hard to analyze things. I do not know. I looked this up and I couldn't find it. When was the last time anybody saw Diane alive? I mean, she was living in the house of 4 people. When was the last time they saw her alive? Now, I would like to know when he said he saw her alive. I want to know when he said he saw her alive. And I would like to know when the other son and girlfriend, Jeremy, the son, and the girlfriend, saw her alive. Was it 30 minutes ago? Was it 2 hours ago? Did they all have lunch together? I don't know because the information doesn't exist. So we don't know when she was last seen alive. So she would have had been dead a really, really long time for her to be cold and her face black and blue. I mean, that's a really long time. But I can't find the information. I'm not saying it couldn't be true. Let's say this is afternoon. Let's say the last time anybody saw her was the night before. let's say he killed her in the night. And then nobody saw her, nobody cared because they're all busy with their own thing as their kids, So his other son, Jeremy, went out and did his shopping and stuff. And didn't care. He wasn't even talking to his mom anyway. So he's just staying in his room watching his stuff. Could she have been dead from the night before? I don't know. Where is the autopsy report that should give us a time of death? We should be able to know whether when they brought her in and examined her, especially at the scene, you're supposed to send the medical examiner out. So they can examine at the scene temperature and lividity and to find out whether what situation are they in. Are they very stiff? Are they still nice and limp? What are they? The lividity is where the blood pools. Was it did it look like she'd been turned over at any time and the blood she was not in the position she was killed in? I don't know. Rigor mortis, when did it show up or didn't it show up at all? So time of death, is it 5 minutes, 30 minutes, 5 hours? Because his story is that he saw his stepson on top of his wife strangling her. This is the most important piece of information. Why? Because he is saying at that exact time in the afternoon, he saw his son committing murder. He does not say he saw his stepdad committing murder. He just says, my stepdad killed my mom, meaning it could have happened at any time. He says it happened right then. He came in, saw this happening, and pulled him off, and they made their 911 calls, and police showed up. The time of death on this case should be like within the last 30 minutes. If his story is true, why does not one documentary tell us what the time of death is? Because why are they hiding that? I can't believe that the time of death was 12 hours prior or 5 hours prior. I think then it would be brought up. I think they just didn't bring it up because they didn't think it mattered, because they saw something or knew something that said she had been killed approximately at the time he said she was killed. And either he just killed her and then tapped him on the shoulder and said, hey, go look, and then try to pin it on him right away. Or he was on top of the wife and he grabbed him off. So it appears to me, because we don't have any other information, that she probably was, and I probably with big quotes on it, killed approximately at the time both of these people made the 911 call. Everything happened within 10, 15 minutes, so that we don't know who actually killed her. Okay. See how difficult this is? And this is the things I think are really important to point out as far as profiling and crime scene analysis goes. Can we look, there are ways to find things out. And I point this out every time when somebody says, well, you should do more research. Look, I will probably make $20 on this video. I'm not kidding you, if I'm lucky. And I watched a lot of stuff and I read his whole book. That's hours worth of work already for $20. So it's not, a lot of this show I do out of love of profiling and you guys, because I like teaching and I like people to understand things. So it's not, some of these things aren't a huge moneymaker. So I always say, look, I will be happy to go full force on this whole case. I will fly to Florida. I will get every transcript of the trials. I will do all of that. But I need an advance for a book, because it's going to take me hundreds of hours of work and money out of my own pocket to fly to Florida and pay for hotels and all that. So unless I'm writing a book and somebody's paying for that book, no, this is an educational show on YouTube. I will only do as much as I can do from right here in my house. We should each give Pat $20 for reading the book. There's a thought. Oh, goodness. But, that's just the way things work. Research is very time consuming. Yes. And yeah. Oh, who benefited? He did. I'm going to get to the husband didn't get the life insurance. And that's one reason he's a huge suspect in this case. Okay. So Dad's statement indicates deception, and so does the stepson's. This is where the problem lies. All right, so let me continue now. His statement is his whole thing about how he saw his mother's face being all black is questionable. Hold on a second. Sorry. I died at approximately 4:32 p.m., just in case you want to know. Oh, something got in my throat. Okay. His story about being at the door and barely opening the door and then claiming that he saw that his mother's face was black. Some of these stories come far later, after he's already talked to the defense attorneys, maybe even past the first trial. It's very hard to determine when these things were said. What's important is what is said at the time. He said, "My dad killed my mom." And the question is, how did he know that his mom was dead at that point if he never stepped into the room and he hardly opened the door and his dad attacked him? I don't know how he'd know his mom was dead. She could. But it gets more interesting. So let's go on. This is a case truly that is missing information. However, what made things more complicated was that a few minutes after Kevin's panic-stricken emergency call, his stepfather, Bill, made another call describing contrasting details of the same event. He said that his stepson killed his wife after he went into the bedroom in the midst of watching a race with him on TV. So the claim here was that even though apparently they've been only communicating by email, even though they're in the same house, there were real issues between these two, between everybody. He had issues. Okay, I'm going to get into issues in a bit because these issues were presented in the first trial, and that is what got him the technical thing that got him the second appeal trial, and these things were not allowed to be used in the second trial. Was all of his issues that were considered, those weren't relevant to whether he killed his mother, and I do think they were, but that's the way things work. So anyway, so they supposedly, his story is that he was on the couch and he got up and went in to talk to his mother. Now, which is interesting because I've been talking by email, so I don't know quite why they were having a conversation in person now. And he went in there and he heard her shout, make a loud noise, like somewhat after they were like yelling his name, like Kevin. And he just thought they were yelling because, well, they were fighting, right? And then it got quiet, and it was quiet for like 10 minutes. And so he was like, what's going on in there? And he went in, and that's when he saw his stepson, he claims, on top of his wife, strangling her. That's what he claims. He said that his stepson killed his wife after he went into the bedroom in the midst of watching a race with him on TV. He went into the bedroom to check on his wife, and he found Kevin on top of her, following which a scuffle ensued between the two. So when he saw Kevin strangling her on top of her, or whatever he was doing to her, he then pulled him off, and they fought in the bedroom, and then Kevin ran out the door, and they chased him, and so on and so forth. A scuffle. All right. Now, the two stories conflict, but there's no question that one of these guys killed her. I mean, it's not like we don't know who did it. No, we sort of know. We 50-50 on these two guys. Police reportedly had strong reason to suspect the two men, considering their history. Bill reportedly benefited from his ex-wife's life insurance policy after her death. Per Oxygen, well, there's a reason you shouldn't believe maybe what you're hearing. Again, have I seen evidence of the life insurance policies? When were the life insurance policies taken out? How much were they? Who was involved in it? Who signed for it? This, again, is it doesn't exist. And this bugs me because they were married for almost 10 years. I'll get into his previous marriage and his later marriage after this. He was married 3 times. All 3 women are dead. But I'll get in and explain that. But anyway, they were married almost 10 years. When were the policies taken out? Now, according to Oxygen, who is not to be believed in anything pretty much, because we don't know if they do any proper research, and we don't know if they're lying, because they don't have a problem with lying to you. They don't have a problem with manipulating your thoughts. So it bugs me. I want to know Show me the evidence. If you're going to do a documentary and not a mockumentary, can you please show us the evidence of when he got that, who was involved, why he got that, and all this stuff. People do get life insurance, okay? They do. They get life insurance on each other. Sometimes it's through work. Sometimes they just make a decision. We're going to get life insurance just in case. Why not? Some people will never allow life insurance on them at all because they're like, I don't want to give you a reason to kill me. Nobody has life insurance on me. So, so my 3 children have not yet pushed me down the stairs, but I think they don't think I have too much money. So maybe I'm not really worth killing yet. But the old joke is we're going to push mom down the stairs and blame it on the 2 German shepherds. And now the cane corso, because there's a lot of dogs to knock grandma down the stairs. So I don't know about this insurance issue. People get insurance. Getting insurance on a mate does not mean that you're planning to kill them or that they're more useful dead than alive. But I will get into his issues with money and women in a little bit. But I don't know, and it bugs me because I do not have the information. But suppose I've heard two different versions, that he got $500,000 on her death and he got $750,000 on her death. I also heard that there were issues where he was working in real estate and there was a real estate crash in Florida and things weren't good and everything kind of fell out for him and his that son Jeremy that was living with him, things fell out for him. So $750,000 or $500,000 wouldn't hurt. So let me talk about my statement about psychopaths, and I'm not saying he is one. I just want to point out the statement I always say. For psychopaths, people are either useful or they're in the way. So the question is, when is a person useful and when are they in the way? And sometimes people are more useful alive and sometimes they're more useful dead. People often feel this way. I'm just really honest with you because, I'm an honest person and I like to point things out the way they are. People, when you get older, a lot of times your children love you, but you become exhausting. You become in the way. And I don't mean that they don't love you, but the care factor is very, very exhausting. That the taking care of a person with Alzheimer's, a person who's up in the years, who they can't live alone very much anymore. And so maybe you got to find a place for them. You either bring them to your home or you have to find a facility that costs you $10,000 a month. And then you have to keep, they're not independent. Their lives aren't good. When my parents were in their 90s, they were very independent people all of their lives, and they lived in an adult housing area. It wasn't assisted living, but it was just an adult community, and it was great for them. They loved it. They had a gorgeous condo in there, a 2-bedroom condo with gorgeous windows, and every night they could go down and eat. My mother didn't have to cook. She loved that. And of course, they had a swimming pool and all that kind of stuff. They had a lot of activities. They loved living there. And attached to that, there was an assisted living place and a nursing home. My father planned that should anything go wrong, like my mother became ill or he became ill and needed more attention, one of them could live over in the assisted living place, and there was like a what do you call it? Like a bridge over, so you could walk back and forth. So you could go and take your loved one from assisted living, bring them down to the dinner at night, for example, or go visit them easily during the day. It was a wonderful plan. And then my father had a stroke and he died. And then my mother was living alone and she had Alzheimer's and it was tricky. And for the next number of years, it wasn't too, I'm trying to remember how long my mother lived after that, but it was difficult. There were a lot of difficulties. We had to move her from that location. She went to stay up near my sister, and luckily my father had long-term care for her. Had a really nice place for her, but it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, and then she died. Guess what? It was less work. It was less work, and more profitable, because no longer was money being spent. Money came in from their savings and was distributed to her 3 children. So even people we love, at a point, people can say, wow, It's easier if they weren't around. Now, this is a horrifying thing. People don't even want to say that, but they think that. They think that I love my parent, but boy, I want if they're living in my home and they're making my life hell for so many years. And now that they're not here, my life is much easier, and I got some kind of, whatever was left to them. So that's how people, even non-psychopaths, can say, how useful is that person? Or are they in the way? Or are they more useful dead than they are alive? Now, I would prefer my parents stayed forever, but because I loved them very much, and they were good people, and they did make it to their 90s and had a good life, and I'm glad for that. But it was exhausting. In the end, it was exhausting. And so that's where people always have that tug in their hearts about, I'm relieved, but I feel bad about being relieved because of the difficulties. So that's a normal person. Now, if a person is a psychopath, they can also say, was that person useful or in the way? So if she was useful during her lifetime, he enjoyed her company. He enjoyed the sex with her. He enjoyed being able to go out as a couple, because sometimes being single is, you can't, a lot of couples won't have you around because you're single and they don't want you around. So being a couple is very useful in life. So people love to be a couple because you're part of something then. You'll get invited to barbecues and stuff. Single people don't get invited. They're like, I know this, I'm single. It happens. So by marrying her, he's got his companionship, he's got sex, he's got whatever. Unless she becomes more useful, not alive. Now they've been married 10 years. Is the life as good as it used to be? Is she as worthwhile as it used to be? Or if she weren't around, would it be better, especially if I can get 500,000 or 750,000? I could rebuild my businesses, help my kids out. Maybe she's not around. Well, I can find another woman, which he did, because he's kind of good at that. So that is something, as a profiler, I would look at to understand how human beings think. If regular people can say, it would be easy if they weren't here, would he say that? It's easier if she weren't here. Not only do I get the 500,000, 750,000, I can get rid of this kid too, because this kid is a pain in the butt, which he is. That kid was a problem. As long as she was around caring for, they had so many issues with this guy, but she was her only child. So she kept saying, well, let's give him another chance, give him another chance, give him another chance. Let him live here. Maybe he needs a little more time. They went through hell with this guy, but it was her son. She was conflicted. She loved him, but she knew he was a problem. And she knew he was destroying the relationship and was in the way and all that stuff. They wanted to go get her own little house. The kids were all grown. They just wanted to get their own little house and live a pleasant life without him in it. She was okay with that. She was trying to get him out of the house. But who knows? Did he one day say, well, if I get rid of her, I get a whole bunch of money and I can get rid of him? Because I don't see her ever stepping up to the plate strong enough to get him out of the house. He's going to be following us everywhere. Maybe he just thought, I'll clear them both out at the same time. Take my $750,000, go off with it, and find myself a new lady. If he's a psychopath, that will be the way he'd think. Because even a normal person might not think of murder, but they might think, how do I get out of this situation? Would there be a better way? Well, if he's a psychopath, he might just think murder is the better way. So just want you to understand the thought processes that people go through. And so a lot of people don't want to think about these things. They try to push them away and not understand how things work. So yes, they did. They wanted to move. Their kids were all grown. He was 23 and the other kids were only there temporarily. They wanted to have their own little place. And now, if he's not a psychopath and didn't kill her, he was hoping to have the rest of his life with his beautiful wife in their beautiful little home. And that's what he says he wanted. So I'm not saying he's a psychopath. I'm just saying, if he's a psychopath, that she could have been in the way and more useful dead. If he's not a psychopath, he wouldn't do that. He'd find a way to to get along and to try to get their plans going and get him out of the house and help him grow up. So which way? I don't know. So we're going to get into which way I think it might have gone. So no, nobody knows who did it, Thomas, first of all, at this point. If it was him, they would say that was second degree. He lost his mind. If it was him, they would claim it was premeditated for the life insurance policy. All right, this is true. The kid just had brain surgery to remove a benign brain tumor. All right, this is another interesting issue. Did he have the ability to attack his mother? He had the brain surgery, I think it was 2 months prior. It was a benign brain surgery, but I looked it up, and it can be very difficult to recover from, even if it's benign, because you're still cutting into your head. The question is, some people recover within 2 weeks. Some people recover, takes them 6 months. He was not, let's say this, he was still there 8 weeks later sitting on the couch. They apparently thought he could leave the couch and get a job. They apparently thought he was okay. This is a question. Now, in his book, interestingly, it doesn't talk about his brain tumor, which I found fascinating. He does leave things out, and I'm going to get to that. But this guy didn't like working. He never kept a job. He was a problem. That was the whole thing. This guy has a criminal history, a drug history. They fought, and a violent history. He's got issues. And he was laying around on the sofa, yes, after the brain surgery, which gives him more of a reason to do so. But at a certain point, they were saying, hey, you've been on that sofa for 8 weeks. It's time to go. They had given him 4 weeks to get out. And a week later, after they gave him that, you 4 weeks to get out and find your own place. That was true for the other two as well. They had given them 6 months, actually. When all of them were there, they gave them 6 months to get their act together and move on. And they were going to get their own place. A smaller place, downsizing a wee bit, but having a nice place near whatever, the beach or something. And he was objecting to leaving at all. And they finally gave him a 4-week notice. They had actually gone through the legal system to try to get him out. And they were giving him a 4-week notice. And 1 week after they gave him that notice, she was murdered. So there you go. It's possible, but the question is, we don't know, Kurtz. Again, what was he really feeling like? How was he behaving? Why was he only emailing his mother? Why weren't they talking? You got to understand, this guy's got a massive history of being, this guy's a personality disorder, in my opinion. Whether he does, I don't know, because I can't quite prove it, but him, definitely. He has got all kinds of issues. So now, the house they lived in looked dumpy. I don't know that that's true, but okay, so people can look okay, but not be okay inside. Lex, he was not okay before the brain surgery. The problem was, this guy had been a problem since he was a teenager. And this is what a lot of people miss. They look at him as a character who is just this nice guy who just was down on his luck living at somebody's house. That's different than being a person who's had issues with the law and issues with behavior over and over and over again. That's what they brought up during the trial. So, and that's what got kicked out on the second trial. Now, I'm still not saying he committed the crime. Understand that. All right. So now let's look at some more of the issues here. All right. So the problem we have with this case is the two different stories. Now, they brought him in and he asked for a polygraph, which he was willing to take, and he passed it according to somebody. Again, I haven't seen the results from the polygraph examiner. We hear this on a documentary. He supposedly took it and passed. And because he passed, supposedly the police were like, he says he didn't kill his mother, and he came up not lying on the polygraph, so they let him walk. Meanwhile, the next thing that happens is he took a polygraph. Now, I don't understand the circumstances that he took the polygraph, whether he asked for it or they gave it to him. The claim is he failed the polygraph on 3 of the questions, including his ex-wife's death, that he might, did you murder your ex-wife? And supposedly he failed on that question as well, that he failed on the question that he killed her. He failed on the question that he didn't kill his ex-wife. So that makes people pretty suspicious. But again, polygraphs are not necessarily accurate. And that's why they can't be presented in court. I do not know who this examiner was. I do not know how they did the test. I don't know anything. Again, this is just, in a sense, rumor. Is it interesting? Yes. So what happened was they let him go because the polygraph came back. He supposedly was telling the truth. They let him walk. But then what happened was they examined the crime scene. And in the crime scene, they found a few things that were interesting. He said he never entered the room. But they found in the room his glasses smashed on the floor at the end of her bed. They found one of his slippers, kind of a house shoe thing, laying there. And they found blood, a few blood drops of his on her leg and on the comforter. And so that's when they arrested him, because he said he'd never been in the room, but in the room were his shoes, his glasses, and his blood. He claimed after they talked to him that those weren't his shoes at all. Those were not even his shoes. Later on, they did testing of the shoes. They found his DNA on the shoes. They were his shoes. So he lied about that. His glasses were smashed in the room, and the blood is in the room. Not a lot, but a little. And here again, let me go back to the difficulty of not having proper information. I want to know, first of all, did they test her nails? What kind of defense wounds did she have? If she's being murdered in her bed, why don't we have any information about that? Because usually when people are being strangled, they reach out and grab the person. Now, he had some damage on the side of his neck, some scrape areas on the side of his neck. There was a theory that he had a bloody nose, maybe because he punched him in the nose. So the problem is, what defense wounds did you have? And we don't hear about any. There's supposedly some damage to her upper body. I don't know what that even means. And if you're being strangled, usually I say you have fingerprints of some sort, but they don't. So they've got. And then usually she's fighting back. How is she not fighting back where her arms like tucked underneath the thing, and she got nailed because he was sitting on top of her. Her arms got pinned by her side and he was strangling her and she just couldn't do anything. This is what I want to know. Where were her arms? Why do we not see anything? Or did she scratch him? Why do we not know anything about her fingernails? Why was his blood there? A couple drops on her leg and a couple drops on, not a lot, but a couple. They were his. He couldn't explain that, why they were there. He lied about his shoes being not his, which they were, and there were his glasses that were smashed. Now, some will say he planted that evidence, that after he claimed that he pulled his stepson off of his wife and then chased him out of the house, he went to make his 911 call. And what he didn't do is go back in to where his wife was. He went to the kitchen to make the phone call. And he said he didn't go back into the room until they told him to. That's what he claims, because he didn't want to, I guess, contaminate the scene. But could he have used that time to grab one of his stepson's slippers and chuck it in there, take his glasses and smash it in there? And if he fought with the boy and got some of the boy's blood on his hand, did he just stand there and drop a little bit? Now, supposedly where the drops were would be somebody standing over top of her. In other words, they weren't smeared. They weren't spattered. They were like dropped down. Somebody sitting on top of her somehow. I don't know. Or could it just be something dropping off somebody's hand? Could he have staged it? He had the time to do that. So it's possible. I can't say just, and they also found his DNA on her neck. Now he claims, well, of course, it's just, like touch DNA. Well, he's her husband. They sleep together. So that makes sense that his DNA could be on her neck. So that's not really great information. But on the other hand, none of his DNA was on her neck. And the question is, why not? I don't know how he was, again, did he grab the blanket and pull it up and strangle her with his hands on the blanket, so that therefore her arms were trapped and his hands were on a blanket whilst he was killing her? I don't know. The other thing is, why didn't he go back in and look and try to save her life? And he says, I should have done that. Later on, he says that. It's a very odd statement. And a lot of people's viewpoint is, well, it's because you already knew she was dead, because you killed her. So why would you go back in if you already knew she was dead? Or it is also possible, which I don't have enough of the information yet. I want the police reports, the interviews. I want all this stuff because I don't have it. I would be interviewing this guy and saying exactly minute, second by second, what happened. If he came in and found his stepson on top of his wife with a cover over her face, even strangling her with a cover over their face, and he grabs his son in a headlock, pulls him back, and he sees his wife like this, he knows she's dead. There's not going to be a question. He's not going to save her life. He knows she's dead. So maybe that is emblazoned in his mind, like he claims his mother's face was black and blue, just black. He says, my father's face was black. I knew she was dead. Did he also know she was dead by when he grabbed his stepson off and saw her face? He knew that she was long gone, that there was nothing going to bring her back. She was clearly dead. I don't know, because again, I do not have any information because the police reports aren't there. So we don't know. So now what we have, two opposing stories, two questionable stories. The questionable part is why you didn't go back in and try to save your wife's life. And why did you make the phone call from the kitchen and then whatever? Him, because his story about not going in the room doesn't make sense if his stuff is in the room and his blood is in the room, unless he planted it. So we don't know. Now, he went to trial and he lost because they introduced some information. Let me tell you what the information was that got him. Well, basically this. He had a history of violence. He had attacked his aunt so violently they called the police, and when the police came, he attacked the cop and he sicked the dog on the cop. The other thing, along with his other violent stuff he had been doing, was that he would call the police and claim that he had done something. He was always trying to egg him on, saying, hit me, because he wanted to call the police and get him in trouble, probably because he was trying to get him out of the house. So he had a habit, not just once, but more than once, of calling the police and claiming that he had done something. This is very relevant to the fact that he calls the police and says he killed my mom, when before he's been calling the police and said he's trying to attack me. And it wasn't true. And that was proven it wasn't true. So he had a history of that behavior, a history of violent behavior, of attacking females, a history of the behavior of calling the police and blaming things on him. He had a history of this, along with his drug history and his other failed stuff history, his other small crimes. He had a history. That was presented in the first trial. And the appeal said that should not have been presented, because what it did was it influenced the jury to think he had bad acts before, which he did. It's the old bad acts thing. The jury was influenced by the bad acts, thinking, well, this is a pattern. And he was also having issues with his mother. They didn't want that presented either. The fact that the mother was trying to get him out of the house over and over again. The fact that he was screaming at her. He said they pulled a knife on her one time. She had supposedly bolted the door, and he kicked the door in. She would try to get him out of the house over and over again. There is a history of his bad behavior, bad acts toward other people, his aunt, his mother, and his stepfather. So is this a guy who could lose his temper? Oh, also, he had, I guess, used their computer and blocked everybody out of the computer. He changed the passcode or whatever, and she wanted him to give her back the passcode and give her back her computer. So it was an argument that just right recently, there was an argument over the computer that she was very angry about. So we have history here. And that's what got him convicted. But they took all that out in the second trial, and then they just said, well, we don't know. We got his DNA, we got his blood, his stuff is in the room, but he could have planted it. And the second trial, they just pointed at him and said he was after he killed her for the insurance money. He killed her for the insurance money, and his first wife died too, and he got insurance money from the first wife as well. So he got not guilty, and he goes on to live his life. And nobody has ever been, well, he can't be charged again. that's not going to happen. He could be charged if they had any proof to take him away. So that's the basic story. Now let's go to him. This is an interesting thing about now the husband, the 3 wives. Okay. So, because most people think the husband did it. And okay, so this is what happened. All right. This is his first wife, Chris. I read his book, and I'm not saying his book is accurate. It's a story that he is telling, right? And when people tell a story, it's their story. He wrote the book after all 3 of his wives were dead. Okay. He lost 3 wives. Then he wrote this book, which was a very much of a Christian-oriented book, and a book on love. And basically what he is saying in this book was that in spite of the unfortunate deaths of his wives, he was thankful that he had those many, many years with them, years full of love. And he at least got that chance. And he was surprised he got that chance more than once in his life. So that was what his story was about. Now, the first wife, this is the basic story about the first wife he married. When he was young, he was sort of dropped out of school and he was riding motorcycles, and he was hooked up with some guys who were dealing drugs and kind of the cool motorcycle dudes. And he drank a lot, and he was smoking weed, and he wasn't doing real well. And then one day he started working at this auto, being an auto mechanic at this shop. And the guy said, I want to come over and we maybe can date her. And he wasn't too into that. But anyway, he thought he was going over there for some other reason. I didn't realize he was supposed to go over there to actually meet her to set up a date. And he looked like crap. He said he went over there, and she was cleaning in the house. She looked like crap too. So he said they met, and neither one of them were impressed, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then eventually he said, hey, you just want to go out, and she agreed. And so then he dressed up better and took her out. And she had 2 small children. At the time, she was a single mother. She had been through some bad stuff, and she had 2 children. And these are the kids. Okay, this one and this one are her children before she married him. He married her, and he said he was young, and he said he accredits her with getting his life in order, that he found out he enjoyed being with the little kids, that he was having fun taking them to McDonald's and going to the park. And he claims that he was really surprised at how much he, instead of going with the girls that he was used to going with, that he preferred this woman who wanted just a one-on-one relationship. And so he ended up marrying her, and the 2 children came along with the package, and he said he was okay with it because he loved her and he loved the kids. And they went on to have 3 more children. They were married for 24 years. Okay. I want to point this out because that's a long time. 24 years. In other words, he wasn't dumping her, quickly for somebody else. He stayed with her for 24 years. And the story that he tells in his book, which again, it could be fictionalized highly, is that they had their ups and downs, but that he was happy he married her and everything was great, mostly for 24 years. But he said, we had our times. And he's pretty honest about the stuff, it seems, that he talks about, which weren't perfect. But he also seems to be the type of guy who likes to take care of a woman. And I point this out for a reason. She was a woman who was, I would say, needy. She had 2 kids, and it's hard to find a guy who will want you with your 2 kids. And he could take care of her and the 2 kids. I think he likes to be a knight in shining armor, from what I see from the 3 marriages. So he chose her because she made him feel important, and that if he could save her, he would be that guy. And he liked doing nice things, according to what he writes in his book. I mean, I would say, dang, I want to marry this dude, because he took her on nice trips. He brought her flowers for no occasion. I mean, and the way he talks about it is that he thought he should do these things because it made for a good marriage and for a happy wife. And he wanted to see her happy. And that's a cool thing. So that part of the book, I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. I mean, Sign me up. Sign me up. Anyway, one day he gets up in the morning and he finds his wife lying in the pool, dead in the pool. And this is where the first bunch of money comes in. The supposed, I haven't seen it, but the supposed $250 worth of money that he makes if she dies accidentally. She's found in the pool. There are a number of stories about this. One is that she had a garden hose wrapped around her neck. Another one is that she hit her head and fell in the pool. I do not know the truth, again, because we don't have any information. The police investigated the scene and determined it was an accidental death. That he claimed that sometimes she had trouble sleeping at night, so she'd get up and walk around and do stuff. And maybe she went out to the pool and lost her balance and died. Maybe he killed her. I don't know. But it got ruled an accidental death, and he did get $250,000, supposedly. Now, why would the money be an issue here? Well, the question would be, is this guy, and this guy does seem to like money. He does seem to enjoy taking a trip, taking a cruise, fixing up his house, getting a new business. He's very busy working and trying to earn money and get money. He does seem to like money. Did she become not so useful as a wife after 24 years and more useful? She disappeared and he got $250,000. I don't know. I can't say. I can't see it in the book, and I'm reading his story. I can't see it, but could it be true? Yes. If he's really a really good liar and storyteller, yes. Interesting thing, there's no information that he's cheating on her with a younger woman, which is often the Scott Peterson type thing, Well, he wasn't even a younger woman, just another woman. But oftentimes we'll see that a woman gets murdered because the fellow has found somebody else that he wants to hook up with. And he's just done with being married and having kids. Now he just wants this whatever freedom. Well, these kids, they were married 24 years. These two were definitely grown because they were there when they married. And these other three, there's only two shown here. The other three, the one boy who's Jeremy, who is the oldest, and then the two girls, they had them fairly early in the marriage. So I'm going to say they were grown too. So all his kids were grown. He could have just divorced and gotten himself a new woman. It wasn't like he needed to get rid of his family to move on. But he wasn't. There's no indication he was cheating on her at all. Nobody says anything about that. But then again, in all of these documentaries, we never hear from the family members or people that know them. There's nobody in them. I don't know why. Do they not have anything negative to say about him, so the documentary wasn't interested? Did they decide we shouldn't talk? We're not coming there and giving the documentary sit there and be abused by the documentary people so they can try to drag my father down. I don't know whether they don't want to talk about him because they have bad things to say, or they don't want to talk about him because they have good things and don't want to be manipulated. Don't know again. Well, anyway, his wife ends up dead in the pool and he's devastated, but he moves on. Now, how quickly did he move on? Well, he met the new wife by the end of, at the end of the first year he met her. I think they married in year 2. Okay. She supposedly went to this, he'd go to the steak restaurant and she was like, he saw her next door, she and her twin sister, and they're both very pretty. And she was a nail, she did nails in the nail shop. And so he's trying to bring his girls around, and the girls say, hey, just why don't you ask her for a date instead of bringing us, as use us to get to know her, So anyway, they got together and he really, really liked her. Now, his claim in his book is interesting. The claim in the book is that she told him that if she died first, she wanted him to be happy. And a lot of people say that. And he goes, we're going to be together forever. And I don't want to think about it. She goes, oh no, you're going to meet yourself a blonde bombshell. And you go ahead with her, but don't have as much fun with her as you had with me. And Knight claims he's met his blonde bombshell. Now, did she really say this, or did he add this in the book after the fact? I do not know. But he met her, and he says she's the most wonderful lady she ever met. That's in one of the statements. And of course, I think for her, it's like, what about me? Or was it the documentary people again that had him, coaxed him into saying something? But he thinks she's fantastic, a wonderful person, kind to children, kind to animals, just the greatest person ever. And so after 2 years of being alone, he remarries. Now, and she comes with her daughter, her son. That's her son when he was young, and she also was a big animal lover, and he really thought she was great. Now, again, needy person. She wasn't earning a ton of money being a nail specialist. She had a son who was quite problematic, and she was alone. And here comes a guy who's raised 5 kids. His wife has died a horrible death, and he's a widower. Everybody loves a widower, not a divorced guy, right? A widower, and he seems to have money, and she seems to need somebody. So he can be her knight in shining armor. He moves in, and he's going to take care of her, and he's going to take care of her kid. And by the way, I will say this: he seemed to try to do everything for that kid. I give him a credit on that. He seemed to do everything for his stepkids too. He didn't seem to discriminate against his stepkids and his bio kids. It seemed like he cared about all of them. From what I can see and from what I've heard from anybody, everybody I've read, anything I've read, he was like a really good father to all of them. And that's a heck of a thing to step into. And I sit there and think, would a psychopath do that? Psychopaths don't usually like other people's kids. They don't even like their own kids, much less somebody else's kids, and put the effort to involve the other kids in businesses and try to get them, to do well in life. That's kind of an unusual thing. He seems to like people. He seems to like kids. He seems to love his wife. It seems to be that way. Whether it is that way or not, I can't say, but it seems that way. And I want to read you something from his book, because I just found this really interesting. So let's see if I can find it. Oh dear, what did I do with it? Okay, I gotta find it. This is about, okay, let me find. She loved animals. I found this very interesting. Diane loved animals, and she had a few dogs when we met. She loved puppies. Let's go to Diane. She loved puppies, especially. One of her passions was to breed Yorkshire Terriers. She had a female Yorkie, and we bred her several times. Diane really enjoyed taking care of the puppies. She had a hard time selling them after watching the puppies grow. Because she loved animals so much and had such a tender heart, it would also really get to her when something went wrong with one of the births. Inevitably, there would be times when a puppy didn't make it, and Diane would take it very hard. I finally convinced her to stop breeding for that reason. I couldn't stand to see her get heartbroken when she lost a puppy or had to sell them. She would get so attached and emotionally involved with each litter. To get her mind off of breeding, I wound up buying her a macaw with an extremely large cage and a goat. He bought her a goat. She was always around birds as her mother had macaws, and she always wanted a goat for some reason. So did my daughter, which is why we have a goat. We got her a Nigerian dwarf goat, and I turned our side yard into a barnyard to accommodate it. One of the things we loved to do together was to ride motorcycles. And because she got the animal she wanted, I got the motorcycle I wanted. Now, I have a hard time disliking the guy. I do. Hard time disliking him. Psychopaths don't usually do that for their wives. People with personality disorders, severe narcissistic personality disorders, all about them and never about anybody else. Even though they can fake it for a while and do the love bombing thing, they usually get over it really quickly. For a guy to specifically, because he wants to help her, buy her a macaw and get her a goat, which is true. He did. The goat exists, oddly named Lacey after Lacey Peterson. I don't know why that wife named it Lacey, but anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But the fact that he would do that for his wife and set up a whole area for her to have her goat doesn't sound like a psychopath to me. This is just a personal thing. I just can't imagine that. Now, mind you, I have a lot of animals in my life. I've had a potbelly pig and iguanas and and all kinds of stuff. And my husband, he, as they would say, allowed it. He was good with animals, but he wouldn't buy them for me. If I felt sad, he wasn't going to bring me an iguana. He just would, if I wanted to do it, fine. This guy actually wants her to be happy and does this for her. He talks about some of the things he, as far as the birthday surprises he's planned for his wives. I mean, if that's what a psychopath is like, I want to be married to one. I mean, the guy sounds amazing. And then when I looked at her after she died. I looked at her page for, let's see, where is it? Diane Kyne obituary. And the amount of people who said things like, Bill, you were the love of her life. She told me so. That kind of thing. This is what Bill wrote to her. Diane, my love, to see all the people come here to pay their respects to you really showed me how many lives you have touched over the years. You and your unconditional love make this world worth living in. Those people were only a small part of who you are. You are the very air I breathe, the beauty I see, and the wonders God has made for all of us. You will always be in my heart and in my soul until we are together again in heaven, my love. Truly and faithfully yours, Bill. Now, mind you, I don't know about the issue about when he gets to heaven, which one of these women he's going to be with, because he apparently loved both of them dearly. And do I think it's possible? Absolutely. I mean, first of all, I want to say this. This is just, you can comment on this, guys, but women, when they get divorced or widowed, they don't remarry that quickly. Men will almost always remarry in a couple of years. They do. They don't want to be alone. And for guys, if a woman thinks they're great and can build up his ego and have sex with them and maybe even cook, he falls in love. For women, it's like, I don't know, you're annoying me. I don't know if I want, so unless you're really needy. If you're not so needy, you're like, let me think about getting you. I don't know if I want to deal with you in my house. But for men, they tend to remarry quickly and fall in love easily because the women brings joy into their life. And as I say, sex and companionship and all that stuff. So men tend to remarry. And then I don't doubt that he loved, unless he's a psychopath, both of his wives. That he loved her very much and he loved her very much and didn't have an issue with the fact he could love two women. And then he married again. So let me tell you about the third wife, and I'll get to hear some of your comments on this guy. So after she died, he kind of fell apart, supposedly. And I say this is from his book, supposedly. He drank too much, and there was he was kind of messed up, and he finally started dating a little bit and wasn't going along real well. But finally, I think he met her online through, not her, sorry, the third wife, and I don't have a picture of her, through some kind of a Christian site or something. And he hooked up with her, and they started dating, and her name was Tanya, and she had stage 4 breast cancer and a mastectomy, and she was in remission. He met her, and eventually, after, I think they were together like a couple of years, and then they married. And he said that she said she fell in love with him early, and he was like reticent about it. And he took a long time before he felt that way toward her, but finally he did. And they married, and they had only like a year together, and their cancer came back, and she died from cancer. Now, there are some people out there who say the only reason he hooked up with her was because she signed over her house to him and the businesses to him. And I don't know that there's any truth in this. Now, if there is truth in that, again, we would see a concerning pattern of make money off of this wife's death, make money off of this wife's death, and maybe hook up with a woman who is desperate for attention in the last years of her life, and it will sign over everything she has to him. I don't know if that's true. He seemed to have love for her, and he said in his book that he's had the fortune of having love in his life, and some people do, and some people don't. Some people find love again and again, and some people, like me, never remarry. No, that's the way life goes. But my ex is on his third, so maybe he's found love two more times. I don't know. So I think that some of it's a male female thing, but because of that, it's very hard to identify. His book comes across as he really, really loves his wife. He always found a wife that was needy, who looked up to him, who admired him, and that made him feel good. That's a very male thing. They love their ego stroked. Sorry, guys, but you do. You'd rather have, you don't want a strong, tough woman who's equal most of the time. That's why it's hard for women who are professionals to find people, because the men are like, no, I'd rather have her, because she's sweet and fun, and she thinks I'm amazing. She's like, oh my God, you're so cool. But you're like, yeah, so that's very interesting. And you're just not as, you don't need me. But she needs me, even though she's got 2 kids and a drug habit. They will go for that. So all 3 of his wives were needy. And he claims that being with them were the best things that happened to him, and they made him a good man. And he seemed to raise the children very, very well, do very well in business. He was involved in a lot of churches and very involved in community and giving. Here's even like after he lost his 3rd wife, he was involved with, let's see, this was a Facebook page of him. He had a thing called KG True North, and he was doing at a foundation to try to help people. And there he is with food deliveries for Thanksgiving and stuff. He seemed to be very involved in that kind of stuff. Now, there was also a story that after the 3rd wife died, he was riding his motorcycle and ran into a bunch of bicyclists and put one in the hospital and then fled the scene. Was he drunk? Possibly. Was he depressed over the 3rd wife's death and was drinking too much and did the bad thing? A bad act, doesn't make him a bad person. Doesn't mean he killed 2 out of 3 wives. I don't know. See, this is the problem, because I don't see in his personality, I don't see that he never abusive. Nobody's ever said he was abusive. The wives seem to adore him. The kids seem to like him. Even Kevin took his name and seemed to like him until Kevin was just doing badly in life. I just don't see him that he ever treated anybody terribly negatively. It's just pretty unusual for that many years. And he never married younger, too. This is interesting. After his wife died, 24 years old, he didn't go and marry himself a 25-year-old. She was, close to his age, or at least somewhat close to his age. And so was the 3rd wife. So he wasn't going for, hey, I'm going to get rid of my old wife and get myself a young one. The only reason that I could see that he would ever kill his wives would be that he really wanted the payment, the insurance money. And at that point, you'd have to say that everything he does with his wives, everything he ever was in his life, was just a charade. That he never cared about anyone, the kids, his wives. He was just into the money issue. And he was willing to kill just like that, just to get the money. And there were some stories that he supposedly had a couple of businesses that had a fire issue, and they thought that was, arson issues, and he's getting money off of that. Again, I just don't know. I mean, people who own businesses that involve a lot of fire stuff that can cause fires may just have those things. Those things are not that rare. But then again, maybe he set those arsonists to get money. So people believe he was an arsonist and a wife killer. I just don't know that I have the proof of that. And I just don't understand. I mean, it's true, his book is written by him. But I didn't, outside of him downplaying certain things, he did downplay. He didn't want to talk about the murders or the deaths of his wives to any great extent. He talked a little bit more about the cancer death. But he said this is a book about love. I just don't want to. It's a book about love. These were horrible things that happened. And this is a book about faith and love. So I can see why he didn't want to go into an entire chapter on the murders and the murder of this wife, even if he didn't do it, or go into anybody questioning her death. Why would he go into that if he knew it was truly an accident? Why would he go into that? So it's really hard to say. From his book, I just didn't get that he was a psychopath. I didn't. And maybe as a profiler, I failed this time. I just don't have that information from that book. all I see is, sometimes when you read a book, I know that the person's a psycho. Like within one page, I'm like, oh my God, you are such a narcissist. You're such a liar. It's totally psychopathic. I can see it right up front. I didn't see it in this book. I see he took responsibility for some mistakes he made. And then I think he downplayed a few things. Because why? I don't know. Why was he writing this book? Was he writing the book because he's trying to reach out to people in a positive way about faith and love? Or was he trying to cover up a history? Was this a play? Now, mind you, at this point in time, nobody was coming after him. But was he writing this as some kind of trying to just put everything behind him and pretend he didn't do anything bad, make everybody else think he didn't do anything bad, that he wasn't a wife killer? Maybe. But if he killed his wife, this one, for the money, he had to wait for his son Jeremy and his girlfriend to go out to the store and then decide to kill her and literally plant evidence so that it made it look like a stepson did it. That's pretty conniving and pretty evil and pretty horrific. And it's just hard to believe after he spent so much time with his stepson trying to help the stepson have a good life. It's such a turn of events that he would do that. He spent so much time helping his wives. It just seems so odd to me that I want money so I can kill my wife and frame my stepson. So, hey. It's such a change from any behaviors I have heard about him or anything. I find that a little hard to believe. Whereas the stepson, on the other hand, had massive issues with his mom and with everything, and had a huge violent streak. And the evidence was in the room that put him there. And he claimed he never was in the room. And he also never claimed his stepfather planted the evidence. You would think he'd say, hey, look, I never was in that room. My shoes, my slippers were sitting by I didn't have my slippers on when I was sitting on that couch. And I was out of the house for a long enough time. I didn't have his glasses. He wears his glasses. I don't know, again, what's the information on that? Was he wearing his glasses while he was watching TV? If he was wearing his glasses while he was watching TV, then he could have gone. Then if he went in to kill his mother or go in to argue with her and everything went wrong, then the glasses come flying off his face during that. If he had them on his face while his father came in and his stepfather, then dragged him off of his mother, then the glasses could have fallen off during the struggle. The only other time the glasses could end up in the room is that if he wasn't wearing them while he was watching TV or whatever, and he seems to wear glasses a lot. So these are distance glasses. I can't believe he's watching TV without the glasses. So he's sitting on the couch watching this TV. My theory is he'd have glasses on. If he got up to go talk to his mother and his father grabbed him there, I guess the glasses could have fallen off at the door and then the father threw them in. Possible. Why doesn't he say that? I don't hear it in his statements. My father grabbed me, my glasses fell off. Where were the glasses? Because they're in the room, broken. So he should, in his statements, if their statements exist someplace where I could read them, he should say, I got up, I didn't have my shoes on my feet, I had my glasses, I opened the door when he grabbed me, my glasses fell on the ground, and then he chased me outside. And he scratched he scratched me and my nose started bleeding and his arm was on my nose. He must have gone in there and I don't know why his defense attorneys didn't come up with it, taken my shoes and chucked them in there, picked up my glasses and smashed them and then dropped some blood on them. I mean, he'd have to do that. And he could have done that, but his statements don't seem to say that. So that's where I run into the problem. His statements don't match that. First of all, he says he was never in the room, but he also doesn't make any statements about how anything could have happened after the fact if he never went into the room. And he does change his statement a little bit. He says, well, first it was just to open the door, and then later on it was I took 2 steps. But it always conflicts with the evidence in the room. His story does not conflict with the evidence in the room. The only thing we have that conflicts is that, well, not even conflicts, is just that we don't know why didn't he go back in and check on his wife. That's concerning. And the question could be that the answer could be he saw that she was dead, and so he didn't go back in. I don't know that he ever stated it properly. And that's a little creepy. But I don't know. Again, I don't see all the police reports and all the statements. I don't know. So, who do I think killed her? I tend, because of the evidence, to lean toward him, having done it. Just because he's a violent character and he was pissed. And I find it a little odd that he would go from being a really good father and stepfather and husband to suddenly deciding to do them both in that manner. I think that's kind of unbelievable. But could it have happened? Yes, it could have. Well, if I were in a court of law, would I have found him guilty? If the police decided to arrest him, would I have found him guilty? I don't know, because I don't have enough of the information at all. I'm lacking those police reports, those interviews, the autopsy report. I'm missing all of that. But unlike a lot of people who immediately jump to the fact that he must have done it, I just don't know. I would still say I'm 70-30 if I were going to say anything. I'm going to go to some of your comments now. It's a crazy case. It's very, very crazy. All right. Where are the goat and the parrot? I didn't know where the goat and the parrot are. That's a good question. Again, we do not know anything. It's been 8 weeks. 8 weeks. He could still be having issues. He could have been pretty good on week 2. We don't know. What we do know is he has a massive history of not working, quitting jobs, being violent, being not wanting to leave the house, not getting out on his own, not going to college, not going to school. He has got a long history of this. I mean, this guy is a mess. After he got out, he did get a charge. He had some kind of fight in a pool hall and smashed somebody over the head. So anyway, but then again, he hit somebody with a motorcycle. Let's see what else you have to say. Autopsy doesn't match a story. What autopsy? You saw the autopsy? Where's the autopsy? Somebody saw the autopsy. Let me know where it is. What autopsy? Lose a wife, get money. I mean, it all depends whether you love your wife or not. But he does. I will say this. He does replace wives easily. But then again, to be fair, men do this. Men do this. They can replace wives quite easily. You see that all the time. And sometimes their requirements for a wife are very minimal, you know? And it's like, they don't even care who you are or what you are. I had this guy, I was living in Minnesota. I was newly divorced. And the guy next door liked me. And he would put a flower in a beer bottle and leave it on the steps for me. And that was his romantic thing here. And so he was like, hey, you know, we should get together, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, we really don't match, you know? And he goes, well, what do you mean? We sat out by the campfire in the backyard and we went and played a game of pool. I'm like, at that time, I'm a vegetarian. You're a hunter and a fisherman. You want to live in a cabin in the north of Minnesota. I want to live on an island in the Pacific. I'm not the woman I have a job as a profiler. I spend my time doing television work and criminal profiling. You don't seem to have you've never even commented on it. You don't care that I have a career. You just want me to move into your house, have sex with you, and play pool and sit out and drink beer. See, he never considered me as a human being. He just considered me as a woman that could move into his life. And he moved a bunch of women into his life after I said no. That's just one of them. I've run into this over and over again. And it's just fascinating to me. It's like, you're really easy guys. As long as you get sex and a woman is nice to you, and it's all good. They couldn't, they did it together. Now the claims by some people is that he pushed her into it, but they could not remove him from the house. He was becoming dangerous. So, I mean, that's perfectly reasonable. If someone becomes dangerous and you need him to leave the house, first of all, they're trying to help him grow up, be a man. You need to go out and get a job and you need to survive. Now, mind you, I don't think that he would have thrown him out and not helped him like get established or something. But they were trying to get him to leave because he was, I mean, if you have a kid who's just sitting there on the computer all day long, refuses to help and is vicious and nasty, should you keep them in your house forever? I don't think so. I totally agree with the parents on this. Yeah. He was lazy and his mom was providing for him. What would he do without her alive? Okay, this is the other question. Why kill the hand that feeds him? Okay, that is a good point. That is a good point. A lot of people think he would never have killed his mother because she was the only thing he had to keep going. And that's very reasonable thought. I forgot to bring that one up, and I'm glad you did. That's reasonable. Because he would cut off his only line of support. However, I will say this as well. When you have a person who has a personality disorder, and I believe he does, he's got so many issues that kind of person, surprisingly, sometimes will kill the person that is actually the one person in the world who would take care of them. Yes, they should be just using them. But once she stopped wanting to be used and refused to want him to stay there and was not talking to him and was pissed off about the computer, it's hard to say. I mean, I get the point because you would think that wouldn't be true. But I've seen it happen before where you think, what the heck? That was your lifeline, you moron. But you're talking to a person who has a lot of issues. Now, obviously, does he come off better for getting rid of her and him? Yes. I mean, when you look about it, his motive is better than his motive. His motive is way better because he gets a whole bunch of money. He gets to get himself a new lady because he's good at that. He can say, I loved her, but now I can love somebody else. He's got $750,000. He can get himself a nicer house and get himself a new lady and maybe he's bored with her. It's been almost 10 years. He can get a new woman for new sex. Possible. Very, very possible. Because he can accomplish this if he gets rid of her and then he gets rid of him too, because he's really a pain in the butt. The only reason I say that maybe he didn't is because he just seems to have such a long-term relationship with people and seems to be doing so much for them. It just seems a little hard to believe that he would take that route. I mean, he'd been since he was 15 years old, he'd been taking care of him. That's 8 years, 8 years. And he'd done all kinds of things to try to help him, as far as everybody says. So, but I find it a strange, usually you see when you have a person who is more psychopathic, you usually see that in all their behaviors. And I just don't see that in most of his behaviors. Maybe he did burn down his places and kill his first wife too. I just don't know, but I don't see it. And people seem to like the guy. He seems to be helping people. He seems to it's just weird. It'll be weird, but not impossible. And again, the biggest problem I have is why that stuff was in the room, and he didn't state that he must have planted it. Because it seems like he claimed over and over he was never in the room. And yet he had no explanation for how things got in the room. And you would think if he saw his father, if his glasses had, flown off or whatever, he would have said, well, he must have just chucked him in there. I just find it weird. And I just don't have enough information to figure that out. You don't have to be a psychopath to kill someone. Pretty much, yes, you do. I'm sorry, I disagree with that. People say, oh, a regular person. No, you can kill someone. Like if someone is raping my daughter, I will kill him. And that I would not be a psychopath. I would kill him. I don't have any issue with that. I would kill him, touch my daughter. And during the process, that's self-defense. I mean, it's defending my child. I would kill him. Touch my granddaughter, I will kill you. Now, I can't kill you later on just because I'm mad at you for touching her. No, that's a whole different thing. People who kill for money, People who kill so they can get a new lady. If he killed her, he is a psychopath, 100%. This guy could have some personality disorder that's not necessarily total psychopath. He could have borderline personality disorder, in which case nothing ever satisfies him and everybody else is at fault and you can't ever please him. I wouldn't doubt that he has borderline personality disorder. And then he gets angry because she's also not giving him everything he wants. So he gets furious. I would go borderline personality disorder if I had to give him a label. But I'm not a psychiatrist, so I cannot give him a label. But that would be what I would guess with him. If he killed his first wife, yes, he'd be a psychopath. Yeah, there's no question about that. I mean, if he took his first wife and drowned her in the pool, hit her on the head and then drowned her in the pool, that dude would be a psychopath, 100%. I don't object to that. My point is that I see a lot of his behaviors. I just don't see the psychopathy in it. The way he treats people, the way he treated his wives, the way he's treated. And from what I see, nobody's saying otherwise. I mean, that he raised other people's kids and that he did good things for them. So I just don't see enough evidence that he's a psychopath at this point. Now, maybe there's a bunch of stuff out there I don't know, and this is what I keep pointing out. I would like to read the police reports of all the relatives, his kids, whatever, to find out, is there more about this guy that I just don't know? People say this dude is the most unlucky guy ever. His places of business burned down and his wives die, and he makes all this money off of this. Is he just a money hound? Does he love the fancy life? And he loves treating everybody to everything because that's his power and control. This is possible. He has control by giving people gifts and treating them, to vacations and all this fancy stuff. And therefore he needs that money to keep that persona going so that he can keep being that guy. Is that possible? And therefore everything he does is all narcissistic, and not one shred of it does he really care about anybody else. It's possible. It's just that I don't see some of the stuff. Just doesn't seem to be the stuff that psychopaths do. Massive narcissists don't usually waste their time doing that much for other people. They might do little stuff, but they're not going to put all that effort out. So I just find it, I find it odd. Well, that's just basically, but the question is, who is the polygrapher? What were the circumstances? What were the actual questions? And I don't know. Don't know. Mom was definitely an enabler. Yeah, she was. It was her only son. She kept trying to help him. And I think when he came in, he tried to help him as well. But at some point, I think he was also saying, hey, look, this guy's got to, basically said he's 23 years old. He needs to leave home. We need to go have our lives. That's what he said. That's the one thing he said on camera. We need to have our lives. I want to retire and do some other stuff, have our retirement years. And this kid needs to move on. He's 23 years old. He needs to get a place of his own. He needs to get a life of his own. He wasn't wrong. And the mom seemed to be realizing that needed to happen because he was becoming, I say, nothing but hell in the house, and not a pleasant person to be around. And I've had my son come home. I have one of my sons who has lived with me a couple of times. He's lived with me, and maybe it's only one time. I'm trying to think now. No, I guess it's one time he's lived with me. He was a wonderful roommate, and I did let him live there for free. And he took out the trash. He washed the floors and the bathrooms. He was always polite. He never brought any women in because that was the rule. You can't bring your dates in here, and you can't, no drugs. So there was no drugs, no women. And he was a very good roommate. I enjoyed having him there. And people say, well, why do you still have your son there? And I thought maybe I should be a little tougher on him, kick him out sooner. But he was actually a good roommate. And so it was hard to do because actually I was enjoying his company and he wasn't breaking any rules. But this guy was breaking all the rules and was a terrible roommate. he was just taking advantage and not appreciating it. So he was very much a problem for these two. So yeah, well, that's pretty much what they said about him. Yeah. Is that what he got hooked up with? Well, yeah, he did get a place to live. That is true. Um, uh, can we see the real wife? What? What real wife? I don't understand what you're saying. Don't know what that means. One assumes the police didn't know and they did not charge him. Okay, one of the things the police said was this. Let me see if I can find this comment. This comment was from this guy. When Kevin said stuff, the evidence was consistent with Bill's story, and it was not consistent with Kevin's story. That's what that, and he said that's why Kevin was guilty. But they know, see, what we're not hearing, which is what drives me crazy all the time. I want to hear both interviews with these guys, all of them. I want to hear the full 911 call. By the way, there was a part where in the 911 call where he's explaining what happened. And somebody pointed out, oh, look at that. He said, hey, you know, my son killed my wife. And then he goes and gives his explanation. He goes, I don't trust anybody who quickly give an explanation of what happened. But what they left out on that documentary, but not the other one, was that in between when he said, my son killed my wife, and the 911 operator said, what happened? And he answered the 911 operator. But on that one documentary, they cut that part out. So it looked like he was just rattling on. See, this is where we don't get the truth. So I want to see the 911 full transcripts, I want to see the full stuff on both of them, not just the transcripts, but I want to hear the whole full 911 calls. I want to see the interviews that they did with both these guys to see where that the police were going, Jesus God, it's clearly this guy and it's not this guy. Is that why they finally did arrest and convict him? They got a grand jury on him after they found out the blood belonged to him. They got a grand jury, and the grand jury, now, mind you, as I said, you know, the grand jury will convict a ham sandwich. This is true. So the grand jury is just to find if they should go to trial. But they brought the blood evidence in along with the rest of it, and the grand jury said, go ahead. And so they did, and he got convicted. And it wasn't, except for the appeal came in, and the new jury didn't hear about his bad acts. And they said, okay, we just don't know. And I get it, because they thought, well, maybe he planted this stuff, because the new defense attorney said this guy's first wife died, this guy this guy that, and they made him out to be a good alternative. And so he was found not guilty. I don't know if I blame the second jury for thinking that, because I have that issue too. I don't have enough information. But again, I don't know what was presented in court. I don't know what was prevented from being presented in court. So it's hard to say. Let's see what else you all have to say. Why are you drinking when I say the word psychopath? You're only supposed to drink when I can't find a picture. I've done well today. You should not be drunk. We didn't come up with the psychopath shot thing yet. So, sons with issues kill their mothers. He's a psycho. It could be. I mean, but I don't know. I say a little bit is questionable. The new woman, well, she had stage 4. She had breast cancer. Yeah, I mean, again, why did he choose her? Now, the question would be, this claim that the new wife gave him, the third wife signed over stuff to him, so he knew he was going to get something when she died, and she would probably die because she had breast cancer. I mean, if that's true, he's a pretty much of a scoundrel now, isn't he? Or is he just the type of guy who's every woman wishes came into her life, that in spite of the fact she's had a mastectomy and had breast cancer, and at that time she was in remission, that this guy would want to spend time with her and want to give her some happiness in her life, hoping that the breast cancer would never return. I think they were looking to move to Colorado at the time. They were looking at places, and she suddenly felt bad, and she thought she was having some altitude sickness, and eventually it turned out that the cancer had spread, and it killed her. But is he a great guy because he's the guy every woman wants, or is he a phony that just pretends and because he's got his eye on a bigger prize? I don't know enough about him outside of his own writing, which obviously is biased, to know which one of these he is. I just don't know. Not talking to your son is a bad sign. Well, apparently they couldn't have a conversation without going, yeah, it's pretty bad in your own house. You have to text each other, you know? Oh, that's an interesting point. Often people with problems resent people they rely on, especially if that person isn't giving them everything they want. See, this is where it comes down to is, would he kill off the only person who's really doing anything for him? Or is he mad because that person has the audacity not to do everything he wants? That person is throwing him out of the house because of this dude. So it's hard to say. We have to do an online interview and background check before you get married again. I'm not planning on getting married again. Thank you very much. No, I mean, I'll say it again. I've been divorced for, how many years? 25 years or something like that now. 20 years. I've been divorced 20 years. No, I haven't gotten remarried. I don't take that off I'm not saying I would never get remarried, but that would have to be one hell of a dude. And I'd have to have a really great reason to marry him and not just to not be married, because we don't, not having to raise kids together and all that, and all the issues of the separate finances and all that. I don't know if I would much prefer to have a great boyfriend down the street. He can keep his house. I'll keep mine. Thank you very much. I haven't run into that situation, but if I ran into the man of my dreams and he was that guy who treated me that well, and I just couldn't stand being away from him, I would be proud as all get out to be his wife. Yeah, I'd marry again. But other than that, I'm pretty happy being who I am. I have a full life, and I will not marry just for the sake of marrying. I've had some offers, and I'm like, the offers were basically, you'd marry for security. And I would marry somebody just because they had something that I could benefit from. So, and people go, well, why wouldn't you marry the guy? He's got 2 homes. He's got all this money. Why don't you marry him? I'm like, because I'm not prostituting myself just to be, so I can get stuff. I mean, I'm pretty old for a sugar baby, sugar grandma, I'm too old for that. I have enough. I can survive. I'm not greedy. I don't want to sell myself. If I meet the right person, that would be grand. But if I don't meet the right person, I have a full life, and I'm okay with that. So, and I'm not real needy. So that's, I say, I'm not the kind of girl this guy would probably want, because he likes needy girls, and I'm not that. So that's, we have our own type of lives that we live. Let's see what other comments you have here. My husband just texted me for supper, and we're in the same house. Well, I don't have an issue with texting in the same house in general, because you're right. If you're in separate rooms, you can just go, hey, what are we eating? That doesn't necessarily say that the relationship isn't good. They never talk to each other at all. So that's kind of creepy. It's like they were in the same house and they couldn't have a conversation that was a verbal conversation. That's more problematic. Well, he's either a psychopath or an unlucky fellow. This is basically true. I mean, yes, that it's one or the other. It really is one or the other. Now, mind you, there are some people have some really crappy luck. I mean, they just do. I've met those people. I know those people, and I'm like, dang, you know. And like some people, like you're like, I'm not marrying you because if I marry you, I'm an, you're probably gonna, I'm probably gonna die, you know, because. And he was very, by the way, very forthright. The one thing he said in the book, which I appreciated, and again, I don't know if it's true. It's just what he said. He said that when he went to marry his second, I think it was her, but he basically said, look, this is what, or his third wife, I don't know which one. He goes, but I think it was his third wife. He goes, hey, look, I got to tell you what you're gonna get. Both of my wives have died. One was an accidental death, if it was, and the other one was murdered. And I was a suspect. So I'm letting you know this because I don't want you to think, get involved with me if, without knowing what you get, what the baggage is and what you might be dealing with. And I thought that, that's decent. I mean, personally, if he didn't tell the person that, then I would be concerned that he was hiding stuff. But again, that's only from his book. When he might be lying in his book, he might be writing complete bunch of fiction in his book, the man he wanted to be, or the man he wants to think he was. But the thing is, I just haven't seen anything that tells me that the guy's a creep. So, and I don't know. I don't see it. So it might be there. I just don't have any evidence of it. And the point of everything is to have evidence. You can have all the opinions you want. Like, I don't like the way he looked. His eyes are dead. I mean, I could say that about him. I don't like the way he looks, which I don't. But that doesn't mean that he killed his mother just because I don't like the way he looks. My question is, what does the evidence show? Pat, any man with his own iguana sanctuary, and you be in. I might go for a guy with an iguana. I might fall for that. Let's say, my husband of 32 years tells me he's getting into the shower every night. I'm all like, alert the media. He just wants you to know where he is in case he doesn't come out of the shower, Oh, he didn't say, what are we eating? He said, what are you making? Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Well, the one who died of cancer, it was a natural death. I mean, again, the question is, did he think she was going to die and he was going to get money off of her? Because people do marry people who are like if I knew a guy who's 88 years old and I decide I'm going to marry him, and I know he's got a couple million in the bank or 5 million, and I know he doesn't have any kids, and I find out that he's not leaving everything to charity and he adores me and he's going to leave me his money. Will I marry the 88-year-old man because I know he's not probably going to be around very long, or at least I hope that, again, are you useful or in the way? See how a person can think. So then you say, well, is it worth a couple years putting up with this? And I end up with $5 million. Now, that is not me. I would not do that. But there are people who do that all the time. And they're not necessarily psychopaths, but they might be slightly ethically challenged, shall we say. And so I don't know, did he meet her knowing she had breast cancer and figured she would be around much longer? And she gave him money? I don't know if that's true. Somebody said that. Again, somebody says that on the internet doesn't make it true. I don't know what she did for work. I don't know what her situation was. And I don't know. So he could have just be a really nice guy who was decent enough to, if he found he enjoyed her company, said, look, whatever time we have together, we have together. And I'm hoping you're going to be in remission and breast cancer won't come back. And she got a mastectomy she already had a mastectomy when he met her, but then she got reconstruction afterwards. After I think they were together for like a year, and she got reconstruction. And so, she was looking forward toward her future, obviously, thinking it wasn't going to come back. I think if she didn't think it was going to come back, he wasn't thinking she was going to die. Oh, by the way, also, I'll give him credit on this. Those 5 kids they had, the first family, they decided 5 kids was enough, 2 of her kids and 3 of their kids together. And he said one of us should get something done. And he decided she'd been through 5 births and pregnancies. He could just go ahead and get the vasectomy, which he did. Now, mind you, again, you can say, well, maybe he just wants to be able to screw around and not get other women pregnant. And so he's saying, oh, look how wonderful I am. I'm such a great guy. But he's not really a great guy. He's just a guy who pretends he's great. I'll do the vasectomy. And he's like, yay, now I'm free. So again, we don't know what kind of guy he really, really, really is. Because all I can read, the way he presents it isn't a good way, but that doesn't mean it's true. So when you're doing very short research on a case and you don't have access to what you need access to, there's only so much you can say. In some cases, I can tell you exactly who did it. I can say, I absolutely know this person is guilty and this person is not guilty. Or this person is a psychopath and this person isn't a psychopath. I may be able to say that in certain cases. In this case, there's a lot of questions about this guy. He's either just an unlucky guy who's a really kind man, or he's a psychopath who is extraordinarily clever and extraordinarily a good actor. I know is a mess. I know is a mess, and I don't really have an issue that he could have killed his mother because he attacked his aunt. And he called the police and said he was attacking him. He's already got everything in order to do what he might have done. So he, to me, is a great suspect. He is a questionable suspect. But he would have to be very conniving, very clever, and fool a whole lot of people through years and years of marriage. And the people around him seem to like him. So I don't know. He just might be a great, great actor. But I don't have proof that he committed the crime. And I don't have proof that he's a great actor. That could be. And that he's either really got bad luck or he's a psychopath. You're right. What pictures are psycho? What ones I have are the actors? Are you kidding me? These are real pictures. This one, are you talking about the other ones? Was it fake? Oh God, if that's true. The problem is Discovery Channel did have actors in it. Which ones are fake? That's her. I know that's her. This one these are real. I think these are real. This is a real picture. I don't know which ones you say are fake. I did have that issue though. I'll tell you that. I did not put up a bunch of pictures because I didn't know, because I have face blindness. So I didn't know. Let me show you the pictures I didn't put up. You tell me, tell me which ones are fake. I mean, I don't know which ones are fake. Okay. I saw this picture and I didn't know if that was fake. And I saw this picture and this picture and this picture, and I wasn't sure. Oh, you're saying this is a fake picture? What? Oh, yeah, let me look at a picture I know is them. Okay, I'm going to go look at it. I do have face blindness. I can't tell features apart. Let me look I know this is him. Well, that's him when he's very young. This I'm pretty sure is him. Which one's the fake one? Seriously? Those are fake. The main one is fake? Are you kidding me? Wait a minute. You're telling me, okay, wait a minute. Are you kidding me? You're saying this guy's the fake one? This guy, no, this is absolutely not fake. You're saying this is a fake one. Shite. So this is what she really looks like. And you're saying this is fake? Son of a gun. I can't tell. Okay, this is what she looked. This I'm pretty sure is real. I know this is real. I'm so damn confused now. Oh man. The what? There is a tree. Okay. The middle is the real, so the left, what? Fake mom and fake son of a gun. Are you kidding me? Pat would be so great at convicting the right person, but sending someone else to jail with the face blindness. I can't tell the difference. Oh my God. What the heck? Why would they present that as the person? It isn't documentary, for God's sakes. The real man has a big nose. Oh man. What? Son of a gun. Oh my God. Well, they should, if they present it as they put the pictures up there and say, this is them, you would assume that's them, you know? Why would they put up fake pictures? I didn't take the pictures of the moving people. In the documentary, there's obviously reenactments. I didn't take the pictures from the reenactments. I took the pictures from the damn screen where they said, this is the husband, this is the wife. Oh my God. You're kidding me. I did look at that documentary. That's the whole problem. That's where I got a lot of them. No, I would. Oh no, I'd be a terrible eyewitness. Absolutely. What the heck? Really? You have face blindness too? Oh my God. Yeah. I can't tell these people apart. You know, no, I'm the worst witness ever. Never asked me to be a witness. They look like a man. That I can do. Other than that, yeah, I've had face blindness, and there's levels of face blindness. In case you don't know, that I've had this all my life. Because even back, I remember the first time my daughter said to me, "Mom, you can't tell people apart," and she was probably a teen, and I was doing Discovery toy sales. And this woman came up and talked to me, and she's like, "Hey, Pat." I'm like, "Hey," and I was like, "Ah." And my daughter said, "You don't know who she is, do I?" I'm like, "No." She goes, "You did a Discovery toy party at her house like last week." I'm like, "Oh." She goes, "You can't recognize people, can you?" I'm like, "Not really. It takes me a really long time, and I have to really work on it." And there's a couple women over in the chorus that I sing in, and I've confused them a bunch of times. And one actually has short hair and one has really long hair. And now I've told myself, I'm trying to put the labels with the hair because they look so much alike to me. I can't tell other than the hair. If one of them, if that long-haired woman cuts her hair off, I'm like doomed. But I now can put, I'm pretty sure I'm talking to the right person now. But yeah, I have a terrible time with faces. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So, but I've always had it. So, aren't you nice? Now I need to change I'm gonna have to, where am I gonna get the right pictures now? I gotta change the, so I'll have to change the pictures for at least the thumbnail that I'm gonna stick up on YouTube and embarrass myself. Wait a minute. The wife that had cancer, there's no picture of her. She had 3 wives. I don't have a third picture. This is definitely wife number 1. I guarantee that because that's the whole family picture. And I did not get that from the freaking documentary. That was wife number 1. Wife number 2, I think this is a correct picture. Don't tell me this isn't a correct picture. I'm pretty sure this, I think, is a correct picture of wife number 2. Wife number 3, there is no picture of because I found no picture of her. I was going to find a third picture. But you're just saying that these 2 are not correct. Why would they put them up there like that? What the hell? How about these? These are correct, right? These are correct pictures. Tell me if these are the correct one. I'm going to put this up as my as my thumbnail. Tell me if these are correct. Somebody help me out here. A woman with a gray-haired woman. Correct. These are the correct people? Okay, I'm going to, for my thumbnail, I'll change out I'll put the sun in the middle and I'll put this picture. Oh man, that's so terrible. Oh Lord. And so the other ones, where did those fake pictures, why did they do that? That so sucks. So now I'm going to have to put a disclaimer on the beginning of my show. It says, these are fake people. What? Oh. That's so annoying. Just the 3 pics. Okay, they look the same to me, and they were in the stupid show. Why would they do that to me? I'm so upset. Oh, that no, oh, that show. No, no, that was just a ministry thing. That wasn't. That's not a wife. That was a ministry thing. Um, oh, interesting. You've got okay. You had a stroke caused face blindness. I also can't tell left from right, and I have slight dyslexia. Wow. So a stroke caused that. That's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of reasons people get face blindness, but I've always, I mean, I don't have 100% face blindness. Like I do know who I am when I look in the mirror. That's a good thing. But I have, other than that, yeah, I'm pretty terrible. So I just don't recognize features very well. Which includes my own kids. If you put my own kids in a place where I'm not expecting them, I will have trouble recognizing them until they talk to me. Hey, Ma. I'm like, oh, thank God it's you. So yeah, I've had that all my life. Yeah. As far as I don't know what happened when I was a child, but I definitely know by the time I was an adult, I struggled with that. So yeah, yeah, that definitely. I don't know how people tell people apart. I really don't. It's like, and I sit there and I stare at them going, are their noses the same? How about their, it's like, I can't tell the difference. I just don't see it. It's weird. Um, oh, oh, reenactment. They for a screen for those parts. Well, no, the reenactment I knew was a reenactment. The people were moving around, and it was like, oh, here they are coming home, and here they are having dinner. I didn't take any pictures of the reenactments because I knew they were reenactments. But they showed still photos. Where did the still photos come up that were wrong? I remember the time that the worst one I did. You remember this one where I said, "Here's this woman that went in an elevator shaft in a New York building. She killed herself jumping into an elevator shaft." I showed her a picture, and y'all said, "That's Celine Dion." It's like, what? A Celine Dion. I'm like, are you kidding me? I had no idea. And what happened was they had talked about the story, and they put her John's photo underneath the story. So I thought that was a photo of the woman in the story, but I did not recognize her as who she was. I mean, so there you go. So yes, I've humiliated myself a number of times. So anyway, now I don't know how I'm going to fix all that. She's not dead. No, she just did a show, and she came back on stage after the what is it called, the stiff person syndrome she suffers with. She just did a whole yeah. People are like, Pat, that's Celine Dion. I'm like, oops. Oh my God. Oh, you know, yeah, I had no idea. Stiff person syndrome. Yeah, she supposedly has that. Supposedly, again, I assume it's true. Um, but she also was so incredibly thin that a lot of people questioned that she was anorexic, and that whatever came from that was from the anorexia. And she claimed that all her family was extremely thin. But then I saw the picture of the family, and the rest of the family was, quite frankly, slightly overweight. And but whatever she's suffering from it. But she came out and did her concert, and people were thrilled to see that she was back doing her concert. And since they told me who it was doing the concert, I knew it was her and not the lady in the elevator. That's why we keep hanging out with you. We love you and your Celine Dion's jumping down the elevator shafts. Oh my God. Wait a minute, I'm late, but got to say the real lady has a wider face and husband has a large bulb on his nose. So like this is what they really look like. Interesting, a bulb on his nose. I just thought it was a younger picture, and also just a better picture. Sometimes, people will take even those pictures and face app them now. So it's really hard to say. Like, I think I can improve my face in a second. Hold on, let me improve my face. Oh, watch me now. Let's see if I get better. Do I look better? Do I look better now? Look at that. Ooh, I don't think I have any wrinkles now at all. This is awesome. Wow. See? So I didn't know whether they just were doing a fancier picture, that, because, when you take pictures at home, you come up with, like, I could see he's got the chin like this and she's got the chin like this. But then if you do a picture in a studio, they get the right lighting, you can look much better. So, but I'm very ruddy. Well, what that is? Okay, I'm going to show you what that is. Very ruddy. Here's the thing. Okay. See if I can make this work. Okay. These are extras you get on the end of my show. Oh, come on, connect. Do not connect. What the heck is this about? Oh, for God's sakes. Now my device. Okay, here. Now watch my face. Whoa. See that? See how red I am now? How about this? Okay. So this is the app I use for the lights. But the problem is sometimes they change the app and it sucks now, and I can't make it work right. So I'm having trouble with the ruddy part. But I do have a tan, so I am a little ruddier than normal in the winter. But see, so this one I'm saying, you can't believe anything you see anymore. So I faked out my face, and now I can change the color of everything. Oh yeah, okay. You're going to use the fancy term, the prosopagnosia. I think that's face blindness. Fancy word for it. Yeah. Yeah. But not severe. I don't have it so severe that I don't go next door and not recognize my daughter and my son-in-law and my kids. I mean, it's not like that. I mean, if my granddaughter's outside playing with her friends, I do recognize her. But if I take people out of exactly the spot where they're supposed to be, a lot of times I can't recognize them. And if people talk to me and they think I know them and I don't, they're like, why are you so like rude? You're like, you're not really, because I really don't know who I'm talking to. But it takes me a while. But they also have to be in the place I expect them to be in. So it's a real pain in the butt. How do you go with the llamas? I recognize the llamas. Oh my gosh. Well, that's true. She's got a doc. Yeah. The one of the questions that people had was why that came on, because she got very, very thin, to the point of Karen Carpenter thin, very, very anorexic-y looking. And there was questions whether she was having, and we'll never know the truth there either. People who are, in the public eye have to present themselves in a certain way. They're not always going to let you know the truth. Just like, hey, I can get rid of my wrinkles. I don't have to look as old as I really look. I mean, nowadays there's so much now that can change everything, that it's kind of scary, because I think we're going to get to the point where when you see movies, you can have a movie star at 70 years old, but he will come on screen and he will look 35. And they'll be able to change his face and his body and everything, and he'll look like a 35-year-old. And you think, wow, that guy's amazing for 70. Well, it's because he's not really showing himself at 70. But that's what we're able to do with the filters we have. And the filters are now, this is a video filter. And this didn't exist until about 3 weeks ago. This video filter did not exist. So, and normally I don't set this filter quite as high because I think it's cool. So I'm doing this. It's called moderate. Now, do I have some? Yeah, I'm doing moderate, so I don't overdo the fact that I have like 0 wrinkles. but that's we're getting to a point where we won't know reality from non-reality, because everything is so much fake stuff even with the plastic surgery and the Botox and all of that stuff. People can do a lot not to look as old as they are, and I'm not blaming them if they don't want to look older. That's cool. I get it, because it's not that thrilling. It's always nice to age naturally. Not really, but I just don't like knives and needles, and I don't have the energy. So that's why I don't watch movies anymore. Well, I'll say this though. Back in the days of black and white movies, people looked a lot better, because the black and white movies actually were blurrier, and it took away a lot of the wrinkles from the older people. So you could actually perform for a lot longer in the days of black and white. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Dolly Parton's awesome. Good lighting, good doctors, and good makeup. She's absolutely 100% right. And, I only have what lighting I can deal with. I do 5 minutes worth of makeup and it's pretty pitiful. And I don't have any plastic surgery. So, but it's true. I mean, it's really true. But I will say this for him. I'll give him a little bit of again. If this is his real wife, way she looks, and not like the fancier picture, she's a pretty ordinary looking woman. He thought she was a beauty. She's attractive enough, but he didn't go for a 20-year-old, and I'll give him credit on that. So why didn't he go for the 20-year-old? He could have. She was close to his age, and I find that impressive because God knows, in returning to the dating world, very pitifully, after I got divorced, I realized that the only guys that were interested in dating me were 20 years older. They just, I didn't get people my age. I got guys 20 years older, and they were happy to have a woman who was 20 years younger. They were thrilled. And, for me, the problem was we were culturally and age-wise, we're just in different places. And that posed a problem for me. And since I didn't just want their money, there you go. So, but, Tali also said it takes a lot of money to look this cheap. She has a great sense of humor. I just love that. I think she's just fun because I love her. I think she's a pretty cool lady. I mean, she's put out good music and she's got a great personality, and really, really like her. So, oh yeah. So even crime scene photos, probably. I mean, it's really going to be interesting to see what happens in the future. With AI, it becomes a major issue because it pretty much, you don't know, all photography is going to be questionable. It's going to be artwork as opposed to photography. Already it's frustrating because, like, I'll see a photograph and I'm like, oh my God, that's such a pretty place, but it doesn't look like that when you get there. But because the person used all the different filters and they changed the kind of dull green to bright green, and they put pink in where the pink didn't even exist. So you don't even know if you're looking at reality anymore. So it's going to be a new world. Let's put it that way. So anyway, that's my thoughts on this case. Thank you for pointing out that I have the wrong pictures. Oh, God. Life, I tell you. That's why you have to have a good sense of humor, because if you don't, you'll lose your mind. So yeah, this was just a fascinating case, and it was funny because I found it so interesting because of the two people in the house, and one of them had to do it, and I knew everybody thought he did it, as opposed to, I can't even put up the other pictures now and point. So annoying. I have to look that up. I can't believe it. But I found it interesting that how quickly, and most everybody thought that the husband killed his wife, and the son was railroaded, and not only railroaded. It wouldn't be that he was just railroaded. He had to, the husband then would have had to frame him. It's not just a matter of the police got it wrong. He literally would have to frame his stepson to make it look like he killed his own mother, which is pretty horrifying thing to do, and pretty. That's a very premeditated type of thing. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but that's what made the case so interesting. But because of the lack of information that I was able to get, because of the lack of solid evidence, the autopsy reports, the police reports, interviews, and because I read his book, so he might be just a good author and can fool me. But because I read his book, it's not a great book, and he's not like a great writer or anything. It seems to be a heartfelt book intended to support love and faith, and give people the hope that they can continue in life and still feel love and can have that in their lives. And that if they keep working on a relationship, they can have a good relationship. That's what he's telling people. It's a fine book as far as that goes. Whether it's true is a whole nother matter. But I cannot absolutely say for sure that he did it. When the evidence does point to the stepson, it's stronger in his direction, unless he's extraordinarily slick. And I just don't have the information to prove for sure that that would be true. So, yeah. Oh, that one. Oh, yeah. But she had poisoned her husband, wrote a book on, she comes across as a psychopath. That's the difference. I completely thought she was a psychopath just like that. And so there's not that people can't write books and you cannot see that, oh, the way they're doing things, the way they're manipulating and all this stuff is really questionable. And in real life, you see that as well. And you say, well, they wrote this book, but their real life doesn't seem to jibe with that. I just don't see that here, except for the insurance payments, which I'd like to see absolute proof of, and I want to know when they were set up and how it was set up, and also any kind of insurance payment for fires and the industry and the industries he was working in. I would like to see whatever happened there. Those are more things I'd like to know about before I can say that I can prove he's psychopathic, as opposed to being a guy that just likes helping people and has bad luck. Whereas the stepson is, he's got a whole history, and and it doesn't mean that because he's got that history, he committed the crime. It's possible he had that history and he was tired of that damn guy and tired of her and decided I can wipe out both of them at the same time, and he deserves to go to prison. He could think that. Why not? But I just don't have that proof. And so I have to leave it at that because I just don't. Oh, well, good night, everybody. It's about time. Thank you for being here. That's wrong. That's not that whole picture thing. Usually I just can't find the pictures. I lose them because they're so small. This time I found all the pictures. You're just telling me they're not the right ones. Oh my God. Well, thank you all for being here. Anyway, as this week goes, I think I'm going to be doing the hangout on Thursday at 7 p.m. I may be getting the video out on Bernd Stellander's book, his new Madeleine McCann book that I promised to do the review. Hopefully that will be out this week. I've had to deal with a bunch of stuff, so it's taken a while. Hopefully that will be coming out. So hopefully. Either that or next week. I keep saying that. Either that or next week. And to leave you with, Botox is amazing. Yeah, I can't do that because having been a sign language interpreter and being fluent in sign language, I have to be able to raise my eyebrows up and down, or I have no grammar for the language, because if you can't raise your eyebrows up and down, people don't know what you're actually saying. So I can never touch that stuff for that reason. Anyway, I will see some of you guys on Thursday. Thank you for being here, and thank you for letting me know way too late that I had the wrong pictures up, but I'll see what I can do to put a disclaimer up. Thanks for being here. Bye.